Hey, Prepsteaders and fellow patriots. So I did a bunch of driving around today, and while I was driving, I was doing a lot of talking, mostly about real estate stuff. And so I'm gonna run that video here. And at the same time, I also heard a bunch of things today and saw a bunch of things today that I think we need to talk about. And I'm not gonna be able to talk about it on YouTube because of the censorship issue. So I will be releasing another video to Patreon tonight. If you are interested in, hearing my opinions, what I have to say, all that, I invite you to join us on Patreon. I realize that it is a paywall and that might not work for some folks. I am looking into some alternative tech, BitChute and Rumble. But to be honest, at this point, I have so much going on. I have YouTube set up and I have Patreon set up, and I don't know that I have the time or energy to do another one just yet. So, yeah, as always, there, are things that I hate that we have to talk about. Like, I freaking hate it. I don't dig where we are in America right now. And I know a lot of us feel the same way, but there's some very serious things underway that I personally have to talk about it. I have to talk about it and get it out. And I know lots of people are feeling the same way. And so even though they are trying to silence us and slice our tongues out, we have to be able to have community and discuss these things. So that's all I'm going to say about it. If you are interested in being part of that community with me, please join us over on Patreon. For those of you who are just interested in real estate, that's cool. I am going to piece together some of the stuff that I talked about in the car today, which is mostly about what it looks like to go from big city living to rural living, what the true costs of that are monetarily and otherwise, and not setting your expectations so high. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll that spliced together footage. And for those of you that are interested in the other stuff, come on and follow me on over on Patreon. Hey guys, Beth from Ozark Prepsteaders here. I am out running all over creation today, meeting up with folks, taking care of business, all that good stuff. And I got to thinking about sharing some things with you all just in a little bit more detail about what it's like to pick up your life and start all over, and some of the ahas that we have had. And this isn't just our ahas. We have friends and we have clients who have done the same thing, who realized it was time to get out of where they were and picked up and started life all over. I have said before, and I will say again, we do not for a second regret what we've done. We're very happy here in the Ozarks. And at the same time, it is a super different way of life. I don't miss much about the quote unquote big city. I love the relaxed pace here. I love being rural. I've said before, one of the few frustrations is, the limited shopping, that you got to go to the big city of, where we are, Springfield, which is an hour and 45 minutes away, Branson, to be able to do any, really serious shopping. But, that's really not that big of a deal in the big scheme of things. It's really okay. Aside from that, probably the other thing that really drives me crazy is when it comes to business, I'm talking the real estate business side of things, there just is no sense of urgency here on the part of anybody. So, like, whenever, I was in Vegas contract deadlines and all these things, and you're dealing with escrow and title companies that they have a lot of clients. Everything is on strict appointment. Everything is in a hurry, and you hurry up and get it done. And here it's like, we're getting ready to close in 4 days, and they still haven't bothered to send the documents out for clients that need to sign long distance. Because, hey, we still got 4 days. What's the hurry? It's just very, very different. And it's like that with just about everything. You have an appointment somewhere, and you're going to wait. And you go out to eat, and you take your time. And you're in line at the grocery store, and you might as well strike up a conversation because you're going to be there a minute. And it's just like that everywhere. And they roll up the sidewalks early. Lots of places, lots of businesses are only open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, which is a little frustrating because if you work a standard 8 to 5 job, when are you supposed to do these things? You got to do it on your lunch hour, or you got to take time off. It's a little frustrating. But I'm going to tell you what makes it all worth it. We have made more friends here and met more people here that we are friendly with in 6 months, the 7 months that we've been here, than we did 7 years in Las Vegas. And I think part of that is because it is just more laid back. People aren't constantly rushing off somewhere, filling up every single second of their day with work or business or activities. And, they actually have time and take the time to get to know people within their community. And I think that's important. I think it's really important whenever you take a look at where our country is today and where we're headed. You better know the people that are around you. You better know who you can count on. I had 2 phone calls come in at the same time there, so I had to jump off video for a second. But yeah, I think it's really important to know, who your neighbors are, who you can count on. And it's nice. Okay, and the other thing is, and I have talked about this before, I'm going to talk about it again, is the cost of living here. Like, it just is amazing to us how much cheaper it is here to do just about everything. And, our average expenditure in Vegas was about $7,200 a month, and all we did was work. Like, we literally worked 12 to 14 hours a day, every day. We went through one period last year, 2019, between Halloween and New Year's Day, we had a total of three days off. And right after New Year's Day, we worked almost nonstop until they shut everybody down for COVID. That was our life. It was just work, 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 work. We never saw Jake. It sucked. And it cost us $7,200 a month to do all that. And here we are paying less than half of that to run our lives. And Randy is working pretty much normal 9 to 5. And I'm working from, home in the office, but my office is, within a very, very short drive of the house. Like, you're not spending 2-3 hours a day mired in traffic trying to get to where you want to go. I mean, it's amazing. It truly is. And yes, if you are not self-employed and you have to work for somebody else, the wages are a lot lower here. But so is everything else. I'm going through some stuff with my dog right now, with Skunky. And just so y'all know, Skunky's probably not going to be with us much longer, but we're doing everything we can. I have spent, since Thanksgiving, I've probably spent $1,200 on him on vet visits and medication and all this stuff. If I would have done the exact same treatments in Vegas, we would have been well over $5,000 right now. And that's not an exaggeration. Like, it blows my mind. And one of the reasons that things is so much cheaper here is there's this lack of regulation. Like, they don't regulate you and tax you to death. You know, they let you run your business. It's not that expensive to get into business. There's not all these crazy regulations, crazy taxes, crazy HOA fees, crazy. And because of that, businesses don't have to pass all that down to consumers, and it's just cheaper for everything. It's freaking amazing. And then I just want to address a little thing about the cost of housing, because I have had a lot of people who are shocked that the housing prices have risen so much here. Okay, and I just want you to keep that in perspective. When I started real estate in Las Vegas, the average price for a single family home was $164,000. Okay, that was in summer of 2014 is when I was licensed. I just saw a friend of mine, Christian, I'm gonna give you a shout out. He is a freaking superstar. He's gonna be one of those $1 million agents you see on TV. He's like super handsome, super on the ball, takes really good care of his clients, moving up to luxury real estate. He's gonna be amazing. Anyway, I just saw he did a post, housing update, market update for Vegas. And in December, the average cost of a single family home was somewhere around $400,000. Okay? And the cost of the house there isn't your only price tag, because most of them are in HOAs, and those HOAs can be pricey. Some of those HOAs, you're paying upwards of $500-$600 a month for an HOA, and especially if you have a sitter lit, which is a totally different story. I talk about that another time. So yes, while 2 years ago you could get a single family house here on 5 acres for $120,000, and now it's $150 to $175 to $200. That is a big price jump. That is all supply and demand. The other thing is, you have to recognize that mortgage rates are at the lowest they've ever been in the history of the country. One of my clients just closed on a VA loan, and his interest rate was 2.75%. 2.75. That's almost free money. And those kind of crazy low interest rates are still happening. Even if you have bad credit or you need to have some kind of fancy mortgage, you're at 5 to 7% for your interest rate, which 10 years ago was the average. That's what you got in at. Didn't matter how good your credit was. And if you had bad credit back then, you were upwards of 10%. For me personally, I truly believe land is a finite resource, and my perspective is better off to buy a piece of land, a nice piece of land with a crappy house, than you are to buy a really nice house with no land. That's just my personal perspective. And I know that the majority of folks who listen to me are looking to live a more rural lifestyle. You can do a lot on an acre. A lot. In fact, Randy and I, the first house that we bought together, gosh, when did we buy that house? Maybe, well, Jakey wasn't even born yet, so maybe we bought it in 98 or 99. We bought it, we were in Corvallis, Oregon, and we paid like $108,000 for it. And it was just a small, it was 980 square feet. It was a ranch style home, but it was on a 1/4 acre lot in town. And it came with a small orchard. It had like 6 fruit trees, apples and pears, grapes, and then enough space for us to garden and do whatever we wanted. And it had a little creek that ran behind it. We did a ton on that 1/4 of an acre. A ton. And back then, you could not have poultry in town, or we would have, easily been able to do chickens. I mean, I've got 7 chickens on my little lot here in town now. There are books, tons of books written on how to, in fact, I'll link some up in the bottom here, on how to homestead on small acreage. You can do a ton with 1 to 2 acres. Like, yeah, everybody wants more land. I mean, obviously, the more you can get, the more fun it is and the happier thou will be. But if it's just about survivability and making it through, whatever's coming our way, you can do a heck of a lot on a 1/2 acre up. And there are some benefits to a smaller parcel. Like, it's just less to worry about, less to maintain, less to deal with. Yeah, just manage your expectations a little bit and realize that sometimes having to do things a little bit different than you planned could actually be a blessing. So, for example, most people aren't aware. Did you know that you can have more than 1 mortgage? Do you know that the average person can have up to 7 mortgages? Okay, so let's say you cannot find what it is that you want, but you want to get here. Here being somewhere, out of wherever you are. And you decide to buy a house in town, and it takes you a year or 2 to find what it is that you're looking for. So now the time comes, it's a year, 2 years down the road, and you find your property out in the country. You could put the house that you've been living in up for sale. You probably have some equity and tap into that equity. Or maybe you keep it and you use it as a rental, because we have a huge housing shortage here. Whatever you can get in rental income, you can count as income and use that towards the purchase of your next house. Now you own 2 pieces of property. There's nothing wrong with having multiple pieces of property, multiple income streams. It's not a bad thing. Randy and I were talking about, one of the issues is that whenever you are still living in the city or in a blue state or whatever, and you're feeling that pressure of got to get out, everything's crazy, now they're censoring me, now it's getting to the point where I'm afraid for my job, like for us, Randy couldn't wear his Trump hat in Vegas because people were freaking hostile. Well, once you get here, after you've been here for 2, 3, 4 weeks, you start to realize that, I always say in my videos, we live free here. That's not just a slogan. Like, we really do live free here. And that pressure starts to drop, and that fear level drops, that anxiety. And you realize, I don't really have to be in such a huge hurry to get out on my 10 acres. Like, even living in town here it's all right. And so if you need to do that and do things step by step, don't rule out that option. And it could end up, actually being better in the long run. I can remember like the freaking anxiety that we had, on our way out the door in Vegas, and it was rough. Whenever they started with the mask and the mandates and shutting everything down, and we just didn't buy into it from the start. And we just knew that once you give them power, any little bit of power, not only will they not let it go, but they're going to go for more and more and more. And I remember how we felt then. I can only imagine what patriots and conservatives are feeling like now, being stuck in blue towns and blue states, blue cities. I mean, it's got to be tough. It's got to be uber anxiety producing. And especially, now they're shutting down our communication. You can't even talk with other conservatives outside of the area. They're coming up with ways to go after our jobs, our livelihood. It's scary. Yeah. And I can imagine that in that scenario, the thought is, I've got to get out on some prepper parcel as far away from here as I possibly can. And yes, that's a great idea. I mean, that's our ultimate goal too, right? I think that's most people who want to live free. The goal is to have a little plot of land and just be left alone. And to be able to survive, to be able to grow your food and take care of yourself in, a grid down scenario. I can tell you here where I am in this little part of the Ozarks, in this little town of 12,000 people, where 70% of us are conservative. We went 73% voted for Trump. In this little town, if the grid went down, nobody is going to stop you from moving a cow into your backyard. It doesn't matter if it's in town or not. Everybody is going to work together and pull together to make things work. That's what community is all about. And if you've been in the city for a long time, it is very, very, very easy to forget, or maybe you don't even know, that this type of lifestyle we're living here in the Ozarks exists. But it does. And it's why we love it here. And it's why we do not regret for a second making the move. Not for a second.